sit a spell with me. We're going to sit on the porch. It's my morning ritual, especially in the summer months, to get up here in the morning while it's still cool. It was 94 degrees here in Deep East Texas and yesterday, and lots of sun. And although I love the sun and love the energy it brings to the plants, it was pretty hot. So to enjoy the porch, I get up here in the morning. My husband, if he's off, he is not an early riser, so you know it's about 6:45 and he's still in there sleeping. I was raised in the country. My mom took us kids out to a little subsistence farm, is what we called it. I don't know that it was intended to be a farm when my parents bought it and worked on it. I'll throw some pictures up so you can kind of see. There aren't a lot of pictures. But when my parents separated and eventually divorced, I was probably about 5 years old, and Mama took us out there to the country. I'm one of 11 children total. Mom and Daddy had 7, and then Daddy has 2 others, and Mama had 2 more with her second marriage. But we moved out there to that country place, and Mama's from Homestead Farm, Wheat and Dairy Farm up in North Dakota, and Daddy's from Appalachia, East Tennessee. And so the country's in our blood, and us kids took to it like, you know, frogs do to water or ducks do to water. We absolutely loved it. Didn't mean we didn't have hardship with, you know, Mama and Daddy and the separation and income being very scarce. So we learned to do things to entertain ourselves. There wasn't going to be anything for us really to pay to go. And sometimes entertaining yourself with 6 kids can get you in some trouble. And Mama's not always there to watch. I'm Generation X, and some of those things they say about latchkey kids. Well, we weren't latchkey kids. We were country kids. And Mama wasn't watching us every minute. And that don't mean she was a bad mama. I will defend till I die that my mama was one of the best mamas, or is one of the best mamas out there. But she wasn't watching. That you just didn't do that with kids like that. So we had a lot of freedom that a lot of people wouldn't have at this age. I couldn't imagine leaving my niece and nephew alone for that long. One day, we learned a big lesson, and I'll tell you how we learned it. We used to get up there on the top of the second story. The house kind of looked like a little box sitting on a big box. It was not anything an architect would have designed. It was just something Mom and Daddy built. And the roof of above the stairs made a natural slide that slid from the top of the second floor roof to the top of the first floor roof. And then there was probably another, I don't know, 15 feet of roof or something like that before it just fell off. And we would get up there and we would slide down on our britches. Well, we'd done that for a good month or so of summer vacation, or whatever you want to call that, summertime. And Mama got to noticing that we were wearing too many holes in our britches. And she fussed at us and she said, now listen, I can't afford to buy a bunch of clothes, and I'm running out of areas to patch, and you are not to slide down that roof again. Do you understand? And we were like, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And she said, you cannot slide down on your britches. Well, there was our technicality. We couldn't slide on our britches. But if we could find some way to slide that wouldn't ruin the britches, maybe we could still slide. Well, we went on a hunt, and my brother suggested we go look where all these people would come down our road and throw stuff out. There was a big ravine as you went down the big hill from our place, and you went around that curve that if you'd take a left, you'd go off to Stubby and Jesse's, and over to the right there would be this big ravine, and people would just throw their trash out instead of taking it to the dump, which is not a nice thing to do. You know, that's back in the era when you had the Indian man that was like crying in the commercial because people didn't like litter bugs. So we found a big old piece of cardboard. Probably somebody brought home hot water heater or something. Threw that big old piece of cardboard and the old water heater down in the ravine. So we hauled that piece of cardboard up, and my brother cut a big old rectangle wide enough for, to hold our body, and long enough that 2 people could sit on it. And he curled it up. My mama's from North Dakota, and sometimes we get to ride a toboggan and slide it down the snow if we happen to be there to visit Grandma and Grandpa. And so he knew what a toboggan was, and he designed it so it was like a toboggan. Well, he and I were the first to try it out. And we sat down on that piece of cardboard, and he curled it up, and I'm sitting behind him. And he said, "Okay, hang on. Honey, when I tell you there was no friction, that cardboard just smooth as slick went down that natural slide on that roof, and before you knew it, we ran out of first floor roof. And time just seemed to stop. And I know it had to be just a few seconds, but it was long enough that my brother said, 'Hold on, we're going to crash.' And we leaned back, and about the time I leaned back, bam, we hit that ground. Knocked every bit of wind we had out of our lungs. We was gasping for breath, and here poured down the other 4 kids from the top of the house out the back door, and they all start screaming, 'It's my turn, it's my turn, it's my turn.' We can't even breathe. We can't catch our breath. And my brother finally got up on all fours and stood up, and he pulled in a big old breath, and he said, 'Nobody else is going to do this. And if anybody tells Mama, I'm going to beat the hell out of you.' Well, there's a lot of times Bubba would pull that one. 'I'm going to beat you up if you tell Mama.' But we all knew if we told Mama, we'd be in some big trouble. But I guess the lesson we learned from that one was a lesson in friction. The friction may be bad because it tore up our pants, but it darn sure kept us from running out of roof and sailing off. So that was our one and only time to toboggan off the roof, and we went and found something else to occupy our time. I guess I'm just going to sit here on the porch and think about the craziness we did when we were kids. Kind of wish we could do that again sometime. I miss who we were back then. I don't know if society changed, but it sure feels different.